Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chaksurmilitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sajajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sujivam Sadaitam Savadutam Parijanaha Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati iti namine Madhu Jojala Premaja Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namo Varshavanavi Devi Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarane Rupanuga Viruda Apasiddhanta Dvanta Harane Namo Gaur Kishoraya Sachat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralamba Rasambode Padambu Jayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namane Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Rupanuga Virayate Gauravir Bhave Bhume Stvam Nirdeshta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Jagannatayate Namaha Panchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu, Dinabandhu, Jagatpate, Gopesha, Gopika, Kanta, Radha, Kanta, Namostute. Tapta Kanchana, Gaurange, Radhe, Vrindavaneshwari, Vishabhanu, Sute, Devi, Pranamami, Hari. Priya. Okay, we're on Bhagavad-gītā now, chapter 11, verse 49. Mate vyatama vimudapavo chista rupam goram midrin namedam vyapeta biprita mana punastvam twadeva me rupam idam prapasya. You have been perturbed and bewildered by seeing this horrible feature of mine. Now let it be finished. My devotee, be free from all disturbances. With a peaceful mind, you can now see the form you desire. Purport. In the beginning of Bhagavad-Gita, Arjuna was worried about killing Bhishma and Drona, his worshipful grandfather and master. But Krishna said that he need not be afraid of killing his grandfather. When the sons of Dhritarashtra tried to disrobe Draupadi in the assembly of the Kurus, Bhishma and Drona were silent, and for such negligence of duty they should be killed. Krishna showed his universal form to Arjuna just to show him that these people were already killed for their unlawful action. That scene was shown to Arjuna because devotees are always peaceful and they cannot perform such horrible actions. The purpose of the revelation of the universal form was shown. Now Arjuna wanted to see the four-armed form, and Krishna showed him. The devotee is not much interested in the universal form, for it does not enable one to reciprocate loving feelings. Either a devotee wants to offer respectful worship or feelings, or he wants to see the two-headed Krishna so that he can reciprocate in loving service with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sanjaya Vacha Ityarjunam Vasudevas Tatoktva Swakam Rupam Darshayamasa Bhuya Asvasayamasa Chabitamenam Bhutva Punak Somya Vapur Mahatma. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, having spoken thus to Arjuna, displayed his real four-arm form and at last showed his two-arm form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna. When Krishna appeared as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, he first of all appeared as the four-armed Narayan. But when he was requested by his parents, he transformed himself into an ordinary child in appearance. Similarly, Krishna knew that Arjuna was not interested in seeing the four-armed form. But since Arjuna asked to see this four-headed form, Krishna also showed him this form again, and then showed himself in his two-armed form. The word Somya Vapu is very significant. Somya Vapu is a very beautiful form. It is known as the most beautiful form. When he was present, everyone was attracted simply by Krishna's form, and because Krishna is the director of the universe, he just banished the fear of Arjuna, his devotee, and showed him again his beautiful form of Krishna. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated, Premanjana Turita Bhakti Vilochanena. Only a person whose eyes are smeared with the ointment of love can see the beautiful form of Sri Krishna. All right. You like it? It's a little confusing when it says his real forearm form, but that's real. And his original is Krishna, but the forearm is also Krishna, just minus a few qualities. 51. Drishtvedam manusham rupam tabasomyam janardana idanim asmi samvritaha sacheta prakritim gata. When Arjuna thus saw Krishna as the original form, he said, O Janardana, seeing this human-like form, I am very beautiful. I am now composed in mind, and I am restored to my original nature. So that shows that the original is the human form. The two-arm form is the real thing. That's what Arjuna likes. Here the words Manusham Rupam clearly indicate the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be originally two-handed. Those who deride Krishna as if he were an ordinary person are shown here to be ignorant of his divine nature. If Krishna is like an ordinary human being, how is it possible for him to show the universal form and again to show the four-handed Narayan form? So it is very clearly stated in Bhagavad-Gita that one who thinks that Krishna is an ordinary person and who misguides the reader by claiming it is the impersonal Brahman within Krishna speaking is doing the greatest injustice. Krishna has actually shown his universal form and his four-handed form, so how can he be an ordinary human being? A pure devotee is not confused by misguiding commentaries on Bhagavad-Gita because he knows what is what. The original verses of Bhagavad-Gita are as clear as the sun. They do not require lamplight from foolish commentators. Yeah. Haribol, I wonder if you took sending those pictures to that devotee in Delhi that was asking to make a book. And Kirtan just sent me by messenger 3 pictures, but that's not good enough for printing a book. (52) Sudarshanam Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sudarshanam idam rupam Justavanasi me yan mama Deva apyasya rupasya Nityam darshana kankshina. Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, this form of mine you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form, which is so dear. And that means a two-arm. Actually, I guess it's in the 48th verse, this chapter, Lord Krishna concluded revealing his universal form and informed Arjuna that this form is not possible to be seen by so many pious activities, sacrifices, etc. Now here the word Sudarshanam is used indicating that Krishna's two-handed form is more confidential. One may be able to see the universal form of Krishna by adding a little tinge of devotional service to various activities like penances, Vedic study, and philosophical speculation. It may be possible, but without a tinge of bhakti, one cannot see. That has already been explained. Still, beyond that universal form, the form of Krishna with two hands is more difficult to see, even for demigods like Brahma and Shiva. They desire to see him, and we have evidence in Srimad Bhagavatam that when he was supposed to be in the womb of his mother, Devaki, all the demigods from heaven came to see the marvel of Krishna, and they offered nice prayers to the Lord, although he was not at that time visible. They waited to see him. The foolish person may deride him, thinking him an ordinary person, and may offer respect not to him, but to the impersonal thing within him. But these are all nonsense postures. Krishna, in his two-armed form, is actually desired to be seen by demigods like Brahma and Shiva. In Bhagavad-gītā 9:11, it is also confirmed, avadinanti mamudha manusimtanam ashrita. He is not visible for the foolish people who deride him. Krishna's body is confirmed by Brahma Samhita and confirmed by Krishna himself in Bhagavad-gītā, is completely spiritual and full of bliss and eternality. His body is never like a material body. But for some who make a study of Krishna by reading Bhagavad-gīta or similar Vedic scriptures, Krishna is a problem. For one using a material process, Krishna is considered to be a great historical personality and very learned philosopher. But he is an ordinary man, and even though he is so powerful, he had to accept a material body. Ultimately, they think that the absolute truth is impersonal. Therefore, they think that from his impersonal features, he assumed a personal feature attached to material nature. This is a materialistic calculation of the Supreme Lord. Another calculation is speculative. Those who are in the search of knowledge also speculate on Krishna and consider him to be less important than the universal form of the Supreme Lord. Thus, some think that the universal form of Krishna, which was manifested to Arjuna, is more important than his personal form. According to them, the personal form of the Lord is something imaginary. They believe that in the ultimate issue, the absolute truth is not a person, but the absolute transcendental. I lost my place. In Bhagavad-gītā 9:11, we read, now how far did I read? Transcendental process is described in Bhagavad-gītā chapter 4, to hear about Krishna from authorities. That is the actual Vedic process. And those who are actually in the Vedic line hear about Krishna from authorities, and by repeated hearing about him, Krishna becomes dear. As we have several times discussed, Krishna is covered by his Yogamaya potency. He is not to be seen or revealed to anyone or everyone, even only by one to whom he reveals himself can he be seen. This is confirmed in the Vedic literature. For one who is in the surrendered soul, the absolute truth can actually be understood. The transcendentalist, by continuous Krishna consciousness and by devotional service to Krishna, can have his spiritual eyes opened and can see Krishna by revelation. Such a revelation is not possible even for the demigods. Therefore, it is difficult even for the demigods to understand Krishna. And by advanced demigods are always in hope that by seeing Krishna in his two-armed form. The conclusion is that although to see the universal form is very, very difficult and not possible for anyone and everyone, it is more difficult to understand his personal form of Shamsundar. Naham Vedayana tapasa nadanena na chejaya shakya evam vido drastum dristavana simam yata. This form you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. Purport: Krishna first appeared before his parents Devaki and Vasudeva in a four-handed form, and then he transferred himself into a two-handed form. This mystery is very difficult to understand for those who are atheist or who are devoid of devotional service. For scholars who have simply studied Vedic literature by way of grammatical knowledge or mere academic qualifications, Krishna is not possible to understand, nor is he to be understood by persons who officially go to the temple to offer worship. They make their visit, but they cannot understand Krishna as he is. Krishna can be understood only through the path of devotional service, as explained by Krishna himself. In the next verse, Bhaktya Tvananyaya Shakya Aham Evam Vido Jarjuna Gyatum Drashtam Tatattvena Pravashtam Cha Parantapa. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. Purport. Krishna can be understood only by the process of undivided devotional service. He explicitly explains this in this verse so that unauthorized commentators who try to understand Krishna by speculative process will know that they are simply wasting their time. No one can understand Krishna or how he came to from parents in a four-handed form and at once change himself into a two-handed form. These things are very difficult to understand by study of the Vedas or by philosophical speculation. Therefore, it is clearly stated here that no one can see him or enter into the understanding. Therefore, it is clearly stated here that no one can see him or enter into understanding of these matters. Those who, however, are very experienced students of Vedic literature can learn about him from the Vedic literature in so many ways. There are so many rules and regulations, and if one at all wants to understand Krishna, he must follow the regulated principles described in the authoritative literature. One can perform penance in accordance with these principles. For example, to undergo serious penances, one may observe fasting on Janmashtami, a day in which Krishna appeared, and on the 2 days of Ekadasi, the 11th day after the new moon, and the 11th day after the full moon. As far as charity is concerned, it is plain that charity should be given to the devotees of Krishna who are engaged in his devotional service to spread the Krishna conscious philosophy or Krishna consciousness throughout the world. Krishna consciousness is a benediction to humanity. Lord Chaitanya was appreciated by Rupa Goswami as the most magnificent man of charity because love of Krishna, which is very difficult to achieve, was distributed freely by him. So if one gives some amount of his money to persons involved in distributing Krishna consciousness, that charity given to spiritual Krishna consciousness is the greatest charity in the world. Charity given to spread Krishna consciousness is the greatest charity in the world. And if one worships as prescribed in the temples of India there is always some statue, usually Vishnu or Krishna. There is a chance to progress by offering worship and respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For the beginners in devotional service, temple worship is essential, and this is confirmed in the Vedic literature, Svetasvara Upanishad. Yasya deve parabhaktir ita deve tata guru tasyaiti katita yarta prakashante mahatmana. One who has unflinching devotion for the Supreme Lord and is directed by the spiritual master in whom he has similar understanding, faith, one who has unflinching devotion for the Supreme Lord and is directed by the spiritual master in whom he has similar unflinching faith, can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead by revelation. One cannot understand Krishna by mental speculation. For one who does not take personal training under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, it is impossible to even begin to understand Krishna. The word "to" is specifically used here to indicate that no other process can be used, can be recommended, or can be successful in understanding Krishna. The personal forms of Krishna, the two-handed form and the four-handed, are described as Sudarshanam, very difficult to see. They are completely different from the temporary universal form shown to Arjuna. The four-handed form of Narayan and the two-handed form of Krishna are eternal and transcendental, whereas the universal form exhibited to Arjuna is temporary. The words Tvad Anyena not Dristapurvan state that before Arjuna, no one had ever seen that universal form. Yeah, I'm on a class right now. I'm just checking if you took care of getting those pictures sent out for that devotee. Oh, okay, good. Thank you. The personal forms of Krishna, the four-handed form of Narayan and the two-handed form of Krishna, the word Twadanyena not Dristapurvan state that before Arjuna, no one had seen that universal form. Also, they suggested amongst the devotees, there was no necessity of showing that. That form was exhibited by Krishna at the request of Arjuna, so that in the future, when represents himself as an incarnation of God, people can ask to see his universal form. You're not as loud today as you were the other day, but you can hear it, but you were really loud and clear that one day. I think it's just different microphones. The word "na," used repeatedly in the previous verse, indicates that one should not be very proud of such credentials as an academic education in Vedic literature. One must take to the devotional service of Krishna. Only then one can attempt to write commentaries on the Bhagavad-gītā. Krishna changes from the universal form to the four-handed form of Narayan, and then to his own natural form of two hands. This indicates that the four-handed forms and other forms mentioned in the Vedic literature are all emanations from the original two-handed Krishna. He is the origin of all emanations. Krishna is distinct even from these forms. What to speak of the impersonal conception? As far as the four-handed forms of Krishna are concerned, it is clearly stated that even the most identical four-handed form of Krishna, which is known as Mahavishnu, who is lying in the cosmic ocean, and from whose breathing so many innumerable universes are passing out and entering, it is also an expansion of the Supreme Lord. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Yasyai Kanis Susitakala Niyamana Tishtan Naneva Jivanti Loma Yasyai Kanis Susatakalam Avatavalam Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadanda Nata Vishnu Mahansa Yasya Kala Vishesho Govindamadi Prusham Tamaham Bhajami. The Mahavishnu, into whom all the innumerable universes enter, and from whom they come forth again, simply by his breathing process, is a plenary expansion of Krishna. Therefore I worship Govinda, Krishna, the cause of all causes. Therefore one should conclusively worship the personal form of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has eternal bliss and knowledge. He is the source of all forms of Vishnu. He is the source of all forms of incarnation. He is the original Supreme Personality, as confirmed in Bhagavad-gītā. In the Vedic literature, Gopal Tapani Upanishad, following statement appears. Satchidananda Rupaya Krishnaya Klishtakarane Namo Vedanta Vejaya Gurave Buddhi Sankshine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Krishna, who is transcendental form of bliss, eternity and knowledge. I offer my respect to him, because understanding him means understanding the Vedas, and he is therefore the Supreme Master. Then it is said, Krishno Voi Paramam Daivatam. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Gopal Tapani Upanishad. Eko Vashi Sarvaga Krishna Ija Eko Pisan Bhuja Yogivati. That one Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is worshipable. Although as one, he's manifested in innumerable forms and expanded incarnation. Brahma Samhita 5.1 says, Ishvar Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna, who has the body of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. He has no beginning, for he is the beginning of everything, and he is the cause of all causes. In the Vishnu Purana 4.11.4 it is said, Yatra Bhatirnam Krishnakyam Param Brahma Narakriti. The Supreme Absolute Truth is a person. His name is Krishna, and he sometimes descends on this earth. Similarly, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we find a description of all kinds of incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in this list of names of Krishna also appear. Then it is said that this Krishna is not an incarnation of God, but the original Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Ete Chamsa Kala Krishna, Krishnas tu Bhagavan Swayam. Similar in Bhagavad-gītā, the Lord says, Mata Paratam Nanyat, there's nothing superior to my form as the personality of Godhead, Krishna. He also says elsewhere in Bhagavad-gītā, Hamadiri Devanam, I'm the origin of all the demigods. And after understanding the Bhagavad-gītā from Krishna, Arjuna also confirms this in the following words. Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. I now fully understand that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, and that you are the refuge of everything. Therefore, the universal form which Krishna showed to Arjuna is not the original form of God. The original form is the Krishna form. That universal form, with its thousands and thousands of heads and hands, is manifest just to draw attention for those who have no love for God. It is not God's original form. The universal form is not attractive for pure devotees who are in love with the Lord in different transcendental relationships. The Supreme Godhead exchanges transcendental love in his original form of Krishna. Therefore, to Arjuna, who was so intimately related with Krishna in friendship, this form of the universal manifestation is not pleasing. Rather, it was fearful. Arjuna, who has a constant companion of Krishna's, must have had transcendental eyes, for he is not an ordinary man. Therefore, he was not captivated by the universal form. This form may be wonderful to persons who are involved in elevating themselves by fruitive activities, but to persons who are engaged in devotional service, the two-handed form is the most dear. Okay. Two hands, two hands, two hands. Now this is the last verse, and this is considered the essence of Bhagavad-Gita. Mat karma krin mat paramo, mat bhakta sangavarjita, nirvaira sarva bhuteshu, yaksamam eti pandava. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. Report, anyone who wants to approach the Supreme of all the personalities of Godhead on the Krishna Loka planet in the spiritual sky and be intimately connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna must take this formula as stated by the Supreme himself. Therefore, this verse is considered to be the essence of Bhagavad-Gita. Bhagavad-Gita is a book directed to the conditioned souls who are engaged in the material world with the purpose of lording it over nature and who do not know the real spiritual life. In Bhagavad-Gita is meant to show how one can understand his spiritual existence and his eternal relationship with the Supreme Spiritual Personality, and to teach one how to go back home, back to Godhead. anyone who wants approach, now here is the verse which clearly explains the process by which, as far as work is concerned, one should transfer his energy entirely Krishna consciousness activities, as stated in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjata nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchate. No work should be done by any man except in relationship to Krishna. This is called Krishna karma. One may be engaged in various activities, but one should not be attached to the result of his work. The result should be done only for him. For example, one may be engaged in business, but to transform that activity into Krishna consciousness, one has to do business for Krishna. If Krishna is the proprietor of the business, Krishna should enjoy the profit of the business. If a businessman is in possession of thousands and thousands of dollars, and if he has to offer all this to Krishna, he can do it. This is work for Krishna. If Krishna is the proprietor of the business, then Krishna should enjoy the profit of the business. If a business is in possession of thousands and thousands of dollars, and if he has to offer all this to Krishna, he can do it. This is work for Krishna. Instead of constructing a big building for his sense gratification, he can construct a nice temple. Then he can install the deity of Krishna and arrange for the deity's service, as is outlined in the authorized books of devotional service. This is all Krishna karma. One should not be attached to the result of his work, but the result should be offered to Krishna, and one should accept as prasadam the remnants of offering to Krishna. If one constructs a very big building for Krishna and installs a deity, one is not prohibited from living there, but is understood that the proprietor is Krishna. That is called Krishna consciousness. If, however, one is not able to construct a temple for Krishna, one can engage in cleaning the temple of Krishna. That is also Krishna karma. One can cultivate a garden. Anyone who has land, in India at least, any poor man has a certain amount of land, can utilize that for Krishna by growing flowers for Krishna to offer him. One can sow tulsi plants, because tulsi leaves are very important, and Krishna is recommended in the Bhagavad-gītā. He can utilize that land by growing flowers for Krishna. One can sow tulsi plants, because tulsi are very important for Krishna. Is recommend this in Bhagavad-Gīta. Patram pushpam palam toyam. Krishna desires that one offer him either a leaf, a flower, fruit, or a little water, and by such offering he is satisfied. This leaf especially refers to the tulsi. So one can sow tulsi and pour water on the plant. Thus, even the poorest man can engage in service of Krishna. These are some of the examples of how one can engage in working for Krishna. The word Parama refers to one who considers the association of Krishna in his supreme abode to be the highest perfection of life. Such a person does not wish to be elevated to the higher planetary systems as the moon or the sun or heavenly planets, but even the highest planet of the universe, Brahmaloka. He has no attraction for that. He is only attracted to being transferred to the spiritual sky. And even in the spiritual sky, he's not satisfied with merging into the glowing Brahma Jyoti effulgence, for he wants to enter the highest spiritual planet, namely Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan. He has full knowledge of that planet, and therefore he's not interested in any other, as indicated by the word Mad Bhakta. He fully engages in devotional service, specifically in the 9 processes of devotional engagement: hearing, chanting, remembering, worshiping, praying at the lotus feet, offering prayers, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering prayers, carrying out the orders of the Lord, making friends with him, and surrendering everything to him. The word Sangha Varjita is very significant. One can disassociate himself from persons who are against Krishna. Not only are the atheistic persons against Krishna, so also are those who are attracted to fruitive activities and mental speculation. Therefore, the pure form of devotional service is described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as follows: Anya Bilasita Shunyam Jnana Karma Dinavitam Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhaktiruchate. In this verse, Rupa Goswami clearly states that if anyone wants to execute unalloyed devotional service, he must be freed from all kinds of material contaminations. He must be freed from the association of persons who are addicted to fruitive activities and mental speculation. When freed from such unwanted association and from the contamination of the material modes, one favorably cultivates knowledge of Krishna, and that is called pure devotional service. Anyabilasitas anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam hari bhakti vilas. One should think of Krishna and act for Krishna favorably, not unfavorably. Constant. One should think of Krishna and act for Krishna favorably, not unfavorably. Kamsa was an enemy of Krishna. From the very beginning of Krishna's birth, Kamsa planned in so many ways to kill him. But because he was always unsuccessful, he was always thinking of Krishna. Thus, while working, while eating, and while sleeping, he was always Krishna conscious in every respect. But that Krishna consciousness was not favorable, and therefore, in spite of his always thinking of Krishna 24 hours a day, he was considered a demon. And Krishna at last killed him Of course, anyone who is killed by Krishna attains salvation immediately. Of course, anyone who is killed by Krishna attains salvation immediately. But that is not the aim of the pure devotee. Pure devotee does not even want salvation. He does not want to be transferred even to the highest planet, Goloka Vrindavan. His only objective is to serve Krishna wherever he may be. A devotee of Krishna is friendly to everyone. Therefore, it is said that he has no enemy. Nirvaira. Nirvaira. How is that? The devotee situated in Krishna consciousness knows that only devotional service to Krishna can relieve a person from all the problems of life. He has personal experience of this, and therefore he wants to introduce his system, Krishna consciousness, into human society. There are many examples in history of devotees of the Lord who risked their lives for the spreading of God consciousness. The favorite example is Lord Jesus Christ. He was crucified by the non-devotees, and he sacrificed his life for spreading God consciousness. Of course, it should be superficial to understand that he was killed. Similarly, in India, there are many examples like Thakur Haridas and Prahlad Maharaj. Why such risk? Because they wanted to spread Krishna consciousness, and it is very difficult. And Krishna. A Krishna conscious person knows that if a man is suffering, it is due to his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. Therefore, the highest benefit one can render to Krishna society, human society, is relieving one's neighbor from all material problems. In such a way, a pure devotee is engaged in the service of the Lord. Now we can imagine how merciful Krishna is to those engaged in his service, risking everything for him. Therefore, it is certain that such persons must reach the supreme planet after leaving the body. That's all the devotees in our movement practice. In summary, the universal form of Krishna, which is a temporary manifestation, and the form of time, which devours everything, and even the form of Vishnu, four-handed, have all been exhibited by Krishna. Thus, Krishna is the origin of all these manifestations. It is not that Krishna is a manifestation of the original Vishwarupa or Vishnu. Krishna is the origin of all forms. There are hundreds and thousands of Vishnus, but for a devotee, no form of Krishna is important but the original form, two-handed Shamsundar. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that those who are attached to Shamsundar form of Krishna in love and devotion can see him always within the heart and cannot see anything else. One should understand, therefore, that the purport of the 11th chapter is that the form of Krishna is essential and supreme. So Bhurijan Prabhu has a comment where he points out 5 basic instructions Krishna is giving in this chapter. They all come right near the end. I just sent it to you by messenger. One, bhakti must be performed purely, mad bhakta. The devotee must fully engage in 9 processes of devotional service. The only goal is Krishna's service, with no desire for attainments in this world. Two, bhakti must be free from karma and jnana. If you remember that anya abhilasita sunyam jnani karmaja, how many times that was quoted by Lord Chaitanya in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and how many more times by Prabhupada in purports. Bhakti must be free from karma and jnana, sangha-varjita. A devotee should not associate with persons who are against Krishna, and he should not become attracted to anything but pure devotion. A devotee, at the same time, should not be envious of those who are inimical, because the karma of such a person has awarded him that mentality. Devotees should remain disentangled from such a person's karma. The work of bhaktas must be for Krishna, mat karma krit. A devotee should use his energy fully in Krishna's service and while remaining detached from the fruits of his work. Krishna must be the goal of life, mat parama. The devotee should remain unattached to both heavenly and impersonal destinations, of course. And 5. Devotee must be friendly to all, nirvaira, no enemies. He must compassionately desire to give Krishna consciousness to others. So just a little more comments. In chapter 7, Krishna described himself as the Supreme Lord and said we can see everything in this world as an expansion of his energies. In chapter 9, he explained that everything comes from him and should be seen in relationship with him. No, I know, but you can remember it, right? It's funny, when I just speak, translators have no problem. If I'm reading something, they say they have to see it. Okay, there it is. He concluded chapter 9 by saying that everyone, regardless of birth, should worship him with devotion. In chapter 10, Krishna explained his opulence and said, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pravartate. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. At the end of chapter 10, he said, Ekam sena stito jagat. With a single fragment of myself, I provide and support this entire universe. Then I'm going to just say a few more words. After explaining this to Arjuna, Krishna proved by displaying the universal form. Arjuna and the demigods and Sanjaya, they could see it. So he established the future standard for someone who claims to be God. I remember some devotees met somebody who was a follower of somebody that was claiming to be God. Back in the 70s, there was quite a few of those around. And he asked him, can he show the universal form? And he said, yeah, he showed it, but no one could see it, something like that. But that's the way it goes. So after explaining, Krishna proved it, then Chaitanya also showed his universal form at the house of Srivas Thakur. He showed it to Advaita also. And Prabhupada's purport sums up the chapter. The universal form of Krishna is a temporary form, and the form of time, which devours everything, and even the form of Vishnu, four-handed, have all been shown by Krishna. Thus Krishna is the origin of all these things. It is not that Krishna is a manifestation from the Vishwarupa or Vishnu. Krishna is the origin of all of them. It is not that there are hundreds and thousands of Vishnus, but for a devotee no form of Krishna is important but the original form, two-handed Shamsundar. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that those who are attached to Shamsundar form of Krishna in love and devotion can see him always within the heart and cannot see anything else. Okay, that's the end of that chapter, and time is running out, so no time, we won't start another one. We'll rather have everybody share some realizations. So we're getting a little bit better at that. And Antalila, you can help us. You're a counselor. You can say something that will help everybody. Translation?
I translate Russian.
Oh, okay. So what is the conclusion of this chapter? Which is our basic philosophy, right? Then who's it? What is the origin of everything? What is the origin of everything? That's right. Okay. Anyone else? Let's not be, we have to learn how to speak. We're all supposed to be preachers. Vrindavati is always preaching. And Tamahar, Mohini is a big preacher. Mohini, what language do you use to talk to Vaishnav? You just use the language of love, just Japanese talk? Harage? That's the best way, never say anything, you won't get in trouble. Because even two people that are the natives of the same language don't understand each other so much of the time, because they think they have different understanding of words, or the way you looked when you were saying it, or how loud your voice was, so what to speak of when we're all different languages. Vaishnav, how's your bone? Good. Yeah, bones heal, they become stronger than it before. Like these crazy people that do those skateboards or flying around, or these bicycles where they go flying around, there's so many bones. But they don't care, they just enjoy that so much. Jackie Chan, that Chinese movie star, he's broken all his bones, like at least once each one. But we don't recommend, trying to break your bones, but we want to break our attachment to this material world. Attachment to trying to enjoy these bodies. Okay, so let's leave it for today. Thank you very much. Gauranga very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, good crowd today. Thank you all for coming. Dwi Parvati, Indulekha. Where is Indulekha? Krishangi Mulder, are you still feeling unhealthy, or are you better now? Sanatan Goswami Das, always there. Ivan Viktorovich, welcome. Aditi from Australia. Shilasaha Vyas Bhaja. Okay, I'll have to make an appointment now for the kirtan. I know I have a little time. Okay, so I'm going to leave it. Please read the chapter again. It's a great chapter. Go over all the verses.